Yes, I mean, is it clear what exactly he wants for the club Asante Kotoko? Has it ever been clear?
I think that Nana obviously wants the best for Kotoko.
No, then the best is I'm sure his visions for Kotoko, if it's very clear, would be articulated by now. I mean, I'm sure we'll all be aware of that by now. We're not trying to, as it were, undermine what Otumfuo wants for Asante Kotoko, but what has been his vision for the club, so that if self-financing, a club becoming self-financed like Asante Kotoko is a big issue, because over the years you have chief executives come in and go, and they complain that, okay, I put my money in the club, and there's the issue of non-accountability, and these things happen regularly, and we've still not been able to find a solution to. We still can't explain it, and we're not sure what the vision is.
I'm not sure. As I said, my tenure is different from the current tenure.
Yeah, obviously.
First and foremost, I was brought on board by Otumfuo and the funding came from my own sources, as well as the commitment to make Kotoko self-financing.
But at least you were not going back to Mensah for money regularly.
I never went, ever.
But we've heard reports like that, at least recently.
That's why I'm saying that maybe that is the model that sits well with Mensah.
Okay.
Because they have a choice. They have a choice to look for people who will run the club with the same instructions as I was given by Otumfuo. Or I understand in this case, and I may have the facts wrong, so I stand to be corrected there. The current management came in and Otumfuo raised a substantial sum of money. I heard over 400,000. I may be wrong, but that's what I heard, and forgive me if I am wrong. That over 400,000 to them as seed capital to run the club.
Must that be the case, that seed capital, after all these years, when a process was started, how many years ago, it looked so good, then everything went down the drain, and now Mensah would raise up to 400,000 to say it is seed money for you, go and build on this. And after how many years, we can't even make reference to the seed money of 400,000 and what was used for. I mean,
well, it depends on two things. I don't think there's anything wrong with the approach if the people who you've empowered are capable of turning the 400 into 4 million.
They have not been able to do
I don't know.
They have not. Because we keep going back to Mensah for resuscitation.
Then it is Mensah. I think
top up.
I think your next interview must be at Mensah, because then it is they have to say, actually, as they have said, the club is theirs.
Okay.
And therefore, as their club, this is their vision, and this is what they wish to see for their club. You know, it's very difficult because, again, we're having access to the royalty. And being just a mere business person, my feelings are based upon a love for the supporters. I mean, there are very few things that I have loved in life like the supporters of Kumasi Asante Kotoko. And if you love something or somebody, you feel. If you feel, you do things that are sometimes so irrational. But the irrationality of what you do is based on making sure that as they fall onto a feather. As they are blind, you lead. As they are in danger, you protect. As they are hungry, you feed. There are those things that you just do that are natural to you because you love. It's important at some point that you speak to Mensah, and then they can tell you that the club is theirs. And they actually like people coming to them for money. They actually like the situation. I don't know. You see, I cannot speak to them because a self-perpetuating whirlpool, as it appears them to be in, of empty stadiums, lack of funding, a certain ordinariness about a great team. There may be something that we don't know that is coming tomorrow. And it is only when you speak with them that they can tell you that, look, you do not know.
But this is what we have.
Absolutely. We as mere mortals know that that is not the way we would run the club. It is fundamentally wrong. I've sat down through the era of heinous people like Sylvester Usu Asari and others who have no business sitting in the seat of Kumasi Asante Kotoko. And it's not a personal statement I'm making. It is just a professional one of that some of the people have not had the caliber to sit there in that seat, in that great seat, to be able to capture the imagination of the supporters, to fund the dreams of the newly born, and to provide satisfaction for the old and weak. And therefore, they have no business sitting in that seat. Kumasi Asante Kotoko is about holding a flame, having the power and the fearlessness to hold that flame. It burns you, but without holding it, you are letting down people who have dreams. It is more than a football club. And I think therein lies the problem of people who simply think it is a job to sit and go in there, which is why today the stadiums are empty.
Okay, so how do we fix it? I keep asking this question because we all agree that a club like Asante Kotoko, you look at its magnitude and the global brand. Some people tried creating how many years ago, from late 1999 thereabout, and how those people revolutionized football in general in this country. Issues of sponsorship, issues of branding, marketing, and we're at this level. How can Kotoko reinstate itself as the premier club of this country, of the African continent, a club that will compete globally, from the point where we say the club can generate funding through its traditional and non-traditional activities and become a force once again? Because it looks like money is everything. It looks like the financing is everything. It will come from, yes, a business model and all, but how do we fix it? I want to have a conversation with you 5 years time to say, okay, 5 years ago we had this conversation and Kotoko has been fixed. That's a conversation I want to have with you in the next 5 years. I don't want to come back and we're talking, Kotoko is worse than 5 years ago when we talked.
You and I have had many conversations.
Many.
Do you remember I had one conversation with you concerning the Black Stars?
Yeah, I remember.
And I predicted that they would be where they are now.
Yeah.
And I know you spoke to Kwesi and them who rubbished me.
Yeah.
And that what I said actually happened.
Yeah.
It's not about being smarter than others or knowing what others don't know. But it comes really about how you see the present future. I believe that leaders are born, they're not made.
Okay.
The leader could be a circle leader. The leader could be the leader of a football club. The leader could be the leader of a nation. The strength and vision that is required is what most ordinary people do not have. It takes a certain courage to be able to take a decision that nobody can see or understand. But that is why people follow you. We've not had leaders, natural born leaders in Kotoko. The minute that you have a natural born leader in, we will not be having this discussion.
We won't.
We will not, because they will have seen beyond the present. People who come in to put patchwork on sores that are too big for the plasters can never cure the wound. It appears in society today and goes beyond football, which is why the country is also in a mess. Leadership is not something that is a title. It is born of the spirit and the courage of the humanity and the soul of a person. And you need to get them, whether they're your general managers, your accountants, your CEOs, the chairman of the board, and in greater society, whether you are fit to be a minister or a president or something bigger than that. And if you're not, then you end up in the mess that we have now. Blind mice without vision, being mice without courage, and therefore no solutions. They huddle in corners, debating and discussing and debating and discussing, yet they have the mantle of leadership.
And that's the challenge.
That is the reality. That is the reality. There is no other reality.
Okay, thank you. We did do midnight.
I think the expectations are massive. I think having gone, and there's a natural progression where you've gone in 06, 10, 14. One expects there to be at the very least qualification into the last stages of the World Cup. So I think is massive. As you know, Ghana has been the darling boy of the world from Munich, of which we had an extraordinary team at that time. I really think that when you got true world greats, even though it was later on in years like Sami Kufuor, and we had that extraordinary midfield trio, we had massive hopes. And I think that come the last World Cup, you had a group of players who wanted to achieve. And they fought. You could see that with every breath in their lungs, they really stepped it up a pace. And the whole world recognized that it was now batting for Africa. African countries had gone out early. The World Cup was on the African continent. And the expectation was high. And amongst the supporters, the media, the whole world, everybody wanted Ghana to do well. So I think that this World Cup, expectations will be even higher. I think for those who are realistic, they know that Ghana is not going to win the World Cup. But I think that people will be expecting that Ghana will do at least as well as it did last time.
Okay, so let's get realistic then. How well can we do? I mean, the expectations are that we have to do well. But realistically, how well can we do? Let's take a look at our technical disposition, the players we have, our general preparations, and how ready we will be.
You know, another reason why I believe that we have to do well is that football is played off the field and on the field. And I think off the field, we have an FA who have experienced all of Ghana's participations in previous World Cups. So they are as well prepared as anybody is. They know what is required. They know the behind-the-scenes support of what is required. They know technically what is required. They know how players should be prepared psychologically, mentally, financially for a tournament like the World Cup. I think that Kwesi and his team are the most experienced team in Africa as far as managing a national team is concerned. And therefore, if they do not succeed, there would be an issue. We can only presume that they are well prepared, they've prepared the players well, they know which combinations of players, they have worked with Kwesi Appiah to make sure that he is well prepared. Because this is not a tournament where you don't know your opponent. You know who you're going to play. You can't say, oh, you beat America last World Cup or 2 World Cups. You know what Jürgen Klinsmann is going to do. Great player, he's had a patchy record, he's done well with America, not as well as I thought he would have done overall, but you know where he is. The Germans, we know them. Right the way through, they have got 2.5 teams ready for this World Cup. You and I know that. Kwesi will know that. Both Kwesis will know that. The FA Black Stars Management Committee will know that. The people of Ghana know that. Portugal, we don't have a great history with them. But we know that with the individual greatness within Portugal, as a team, they fail to deliver when it matters. We know what is required. Are we prepared? Only Kwesi and Kwesi know that. So, what is the outcome going to be? The total responsibility on our success or failure lies in the hands of Kwesi Nyantakyi and Kwesi Appiah.
Is it enough to go to Brazil, deliver another fine performance? I mean, what about...
I think it certainly should. It should have last time and the time before. And I think that Kwesi and the FA would have learned their lessons. One can only presume so. And I like to be positive. You know, before every World Cup, I talk positively and patriotically, and I must state that people must wave that flag. We don't want any player haters. We don't want people to say they're against the Black Stars. Everybody who lives in this country must be there with a collective force say that Black Stars are going to do well. We must wish each and every one of our players well, the technical team, the medics, the FA Black Stars committee members. We must wish them all the very best for this tournament. And the way that it works in any structured system, the issue of how we position ourselves from a business viewpoint is not mine or yours. It is up to Kwesi, and I'm hoping that the last 2 World Cups I've been very vociferous in my criticism of that lack of business ingenuity and taking the possible advantages of going to such an arena with billions of people to see how one can raise money for the domestic game. Because the domestic game is dying. We all know it is being badly run, underfunded, badly managed. And it is only by funding and different systems being put in place, different caliber of people being attracted into the game, that things are going to change. So I would hope, yes, that we enter into this World Cup and that the results certainly off the field in terms of business opportunities, contacts, and what we do is realized to take us through. But as I said, Ghana is the best equipped. I don't think any other country has an FA president who is going to the third World Cup from such a position of strength.
Okay, so May 9.
Well, you know, May 9th is always a time of great sorrow, and it's a time where these days we're trying to lift our hearts a little bit. We've seen the families grow. There are a lot of children who were not born or were in their mummies' tummies at the time who are now young men and women, and it's always interesting to see them. Most of us and those who I work with who also have that feeling that one should never forget the efforts of others. Throughout the year we tend to visit some of the families. You cannot visit all, but we visit some. We reach out and they reach out to us and we respond. So as we move into May 9th, the day is one of great symbolism for that tragedy. But beyond that, it's also, we shouldn't forget, people ask the question, why do you continuously do it? Why do you year in, year out do it? And I say, first and foremost, I was chairman of the club at the time. Secondly, I feel, and if you feel, you do. Thirdly, it is a global event. I mean, it is one of the worst tragedies in a soccer stadium ever experienced anywhere in the world. And I think that it is sad when I think about how it is Hillsborough is celebrated, how it's celebrated around the world in different places. It's not an individual like Herbert Mensah. It is the nation, it's the society that gets up in remembrance of that occasion. And the families that were involved at the time, those who were close to the scene at the time, it is marked and remembered so that it never ever occurs again. It is not a point of recrimination or saying that this person did wrong. We've passed that stage. But it is to give respect. And in these 13 years, as you know, we've done it virtually every year by ourselves. We have experienced the pathetic attempts by various governments to then stage their own May 9th event rather than in joining with the families and ourselves, you know. And that is such a heinous way to go about trying to show levels of respect to people who have lost their lives and quite frankly have not been properly looked after by various governments. And then to try and cash in on the day as though it is a day that you can sit up, pick the mic because you're a minister or you're a member of government and somebody should listen to you. I don't accept that. I think that is heinous. And people, if they do it again this year, I will name them and shame them and ask those ministers to reflect in the mirror and ask themselves where were they on May 9th, 2001? And what are they doing for the families and the society at large who are still scarred from this event? Do they go and visit the families during the year? Do they spend time with? Do they care about their children? What lesson are they trying to put out themselves? Or are they going to come and preach on the pulpit on that particular day as though they know better than us? They don't. So, again, it is the 13th year. We will be out there. We will support them. I have great pride in associating myself with various people. But the most important is a wonderful man called Haitham Fakri at Interplast every single year. I don't even have to open my mouth. And in whatever way that he can, he turns around and supports. Every single year. You know, and I have to take my hat off to him in particular. We have other people who have got involved. In the old days, we had people like Gassem got involved. They haven't been around us for the last couple of years. There's a young gentleman in Kumasi whose name I've forgotten. He's an Indian gentleman who works with a company called Stallion. And Stallion made a great deal of effort. It's not about what you give. I mean, it's not about bags of rice, about oil. But it's actually coming out there and visiting the families, you know, and showing some care during the year, trying to get involved during the year, which is important. We shouldn't forget our friends in the media. People like Gina Blake, special lady, you know. And most of the media guys, yourself has been involved. We shouldn't forget, you know, sometime up in Kumasi, who marshals along with the great King Edward, you know. And year in, year out, whether we are there, whether we are not there, they go with the Ali Maradonas and my dear brother Alaji Harts, who I've told him I don't care what his circumstances are. Where I walk, he walks. We move together. We were there together. I have so much love and respect for that man. So we will be there again this year. And we're trying to get more companies involved so that we do more than a football match, more than a march. We are going to try and also launch a small mentorship scheme this year and see if we can actually stand up and give people hope. I and a few others will lead that up in Kumasi, hopefully through the Royal Park, but I'm not sure. The details will come a little bit clearer soon to come. And be in a situation whereby we can let our presence be felt and let people know that we are available to talk about that occasion, to speak about life, to give hope too. And importantly, that people understand that under our watch, they will never be forgotten.
Okay. Okay. Chairman, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for speaking to us on Sports File. Asante Kotoko is, I mean, it's very difficult to talk Asante Kotoko. I don't remember you because of your history with the club. Kotoko is on the verge of winning a third successive Premier League title. The excitement is not exactly there. But for you, I'm sure you should be happy that a club you have been associated with before has become this dominant and is winning 3 league titles in a row.
I think so. I think everybody who is associated with Kotoko, past, present, and future, has got to be very happy. They've got to offer levels of congratulations to on-field performances. I think in many ways it's only natural. I think the Kotoko in Ghana is the same as Juventus and others in Europe, and I'd like to say Kaiser Chiefs and Pirates in South Africa, the old traditional clubs who do well, TP Mazembe. So it's natural in many ways, and long may it last.
And you mentioned TP Mazembe, you mentioned Juventus, you mentioned Kaiser Chiefs. I'm not going to go to Europe and talk Juventus. I'll stay with the likes of TP Mazembe and Kaiser Chiefs. These are brands that locally are very strong, continentally stronger, and even globally are clubs that become reference point in Africa. Unfortunately, you can't put Kotoko in the same bracket at this point, would you?
The reality is no, you can't, and I think it's important what you've indicated. I think it's, for me, the issue of Kotoko has always been a club that should not be looked at on national grounds. I mean, when we were in Kotoko, we took great pride in the fact that we had re-established the brand across the continent. And even in Europe, when I was at Hamburg, at Heisfall, through Italy, it was a brand that people understood who they were, who they could be, and who they were going to become. And I think the globalization of the brand Kotoko is far more important, given the fact that the domestic league is nothing to write home about, given the fact that the standard of the domestic league is simply not good enough in terms of the product that is the domestic league. And I believe that Kotoko is actually much bigger than that. So I think you're absolutely right. When I look at TP Mazembe today, and even in the old days when I used to sit down with the president of ASEC Mimosa, and look at his plans, I think you have a new breed of business owners, a new breed of club presidents, a new breed of people who are running clubs, who are putting together business models that are global in approach, business models that have sustainability, business models that mate the demands of the fans to tradition and to modernity. And I think that those plans, they're seeds that you need to plant that take quite a while to germinate and to flourish. But we're now seeing it, that the real true great clubs can go to World Club Championship and not disgrace Africa, be a force, that the natural God-given athleticism of the African player is coming through at various levels. And for me, it's a source of great pride.
And I mean, the late 90s through to the early 2000s, we planted seeds like that. I mean, for those who managed Kotoko at the time, I don't want to get too personal, but for those who managed Kotoko at the time, you started a process, or they started a process, planted those seeds. What have we failed to do over the years so that Kotoko should be at the same level with, say, Kaizer Chiefs, or even beyond that? Kotoko should be playing in, as you mentioned, the World Club Championships. Kotoko should be the TP Mazembe of African football today, or the Kaizer Chiefs or the Orlando Pirates. Kotoko is not there. We seem to have done so many things wrong from when we stopped watering those seeds and stopped being consistent up until this time.
Well, for some people it's a tough question. For me, it's not so tough. But I think it's the reality.